SuperTalk Mississippi Media production.
Logan Farms has the perfect selection of gourmet meats for your holiday table. Whether you're purchasing corporate gifts or hosting a family gathering, our delicious meats are sure to satisfy. Call us at 601-366-HAMS or visit us at loganfarms.com.
This is Gerard Gibert, and thank you for listening to MidDays here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
MidDays with Gerard Gibert is on the air. MidDays with Gerard Gibert is powered by C-Spire. Power your home or business with C-Spire Fiber. To learn more, visit supertalk.fm/C-Spire. C-Spire Fiber powers SuperTalk Mississippi. Get ready to go beyond the headlines and join a meaningful conversation with people from around the state. You're listening to MidDays with Gerard Gibert here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to MidDays, SuperTalk Mississippi. I'm your host, Gerard Gibert, along with Will East in the Element Wealth Studio, guiding you through the middle of your day with facts, fodder, and fine music. Morning there, Will.
Good morning.
Well, I tell you, I had a bit of an extended time off. Of course, we had Thursday and Friday off. We appreciate the sports guys for handling the action on Friday, Egg Bowl Friday, and then, of course, all hell broke loose after that with this saga, this soap opera of Lane Kiffin. Appreciate Dave filling in yesterday. Had to take care of my wife. Had a little procedure yesterday. Everything's good. The old standard colonoscopy, I don't mind saying that because you need to get one if you hadn't, if you're over the age of 50 or if you're high risk because of a family history. You know, I talk openly about that. 2006, I had a little bout with colon cancer. No big deal. I mean, had the polyps removed and was ultimately, during the colonoscopy, cured at that point. But it was recommended. Honestly, it came back. You know, I know I've told this story. Half of the physicians in the GI clinic said, "You're good," and the other half said, "You probably ought to have surgery." Oh, great. That makes it an easy decision. So I did, and everything's great. Never had a single problem since then. That, it's hard to believe, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
20 years ago, just because of that simple preventative procedure. My wife had it yesterday. Normal timing for her. Got a 5-year pass. But while I'm in the gigantic waiting room there, it's like a colonoscopy factory. It's what it kind of looks like. They just rolling men in and out like cattle. Do a fantastic job, by the way. Just everybody. Julie and I noted that after the experience, just from, the start at the check-in, at admittance, all the way through when you're released. Just really, really strong people that take care of you and care and are positive. And so shout out to them. Local organization, GI Associates. I think most people in central Mississippi are familiar with them. But a couple of people approached me. "Are you Gerard?" You know how that is.
Yeah.
"Who's doing the show today? What are you doing?" You know, like, you shouldn't be here. You should be. Well, every now and then you got to take care of business. So, but nonetheless, I digress. We're here. Good gosh. What that has done, however, has allowed me to accumulate so many different things to talk about. And that's not even considering the story in the state of Mississippi that you can't overlook, which is the saga, the soap opera, as I described it, of Lane Kiffin.
I mean, it made NBC Nightly News last night.
Laura Ingraham
Yeah.
had a segment, had a guest, Dan, I can't remember his last name, sports analyst, and I'm going to tell you, he absolutely just excoriated. He scorched Lane Kiffin.
Yeah.
He really, and he said, interestingly enough, he said, don't feel sorry for the coaches or Lane Kiffin because he's playing the woe is me victim card. I think he is. That's my opinion. And he said, and don't feel sorry for the players. They're all making, many of them, more money than truly professional sporting athletes. He said, feel sorry for the people. Feel sorry is probably a little strong, but think about the people who counted on all this, who opened up their wallets, who got behind all this, thinking, this was the right thing to do, and now they're kind of being left at the dance, so to speak. So, man, he didn't hold back. And I think that's been the consistent narrative, wouldn't you say,
Absolutely.
from analysts?
Absolutely.
But, I know some people get upset when I make this point, but to a great extent, we created this. We as in the fans. A lot of people say, well, it's all different now and the whole thing's falling apart. No, it's not. And Dan, this guy, made this point last night. We're filling up the stadiums, right? We're filling them up everywhere.
You're watching on TV.
We watch it on TV. We can't get enough of it. It floods the internet. All the social media platforms, the message boards, the media services, they're just full of all this. We cannot get enough of it. And we're willing to part with our money because when you know this, because you're in the business, when you're watching it on TV, you're essentially paying for it.
Yeah.
Your payment is the viewing. You're consuming it.
All those ads you see,
yes.
All that.
You're fueling it. You're powering. They wouldn't do it if you weren't buying stuff because you see those.
If you don't like the way it is, turn the TV off. Turn it to another channel because otherwise you are just fueling it. I'm telling you.
It's our insatiable appetite for it. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just saying.
I had a guy, Gerard, tell me not too long ago. He said, I can't stand the way it's set up now. They shouldn't be getting paid all this money, blah, 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 blah. He says, I'm not going to any other games. He said, I'm just going to watch it at home. And I said, Bill, are you listening to yourself? You've gone crazy. You're just going to watch it at home? That's the way they want you to consume it in many ways.
That's exactly right. So the money, everybody says, it's all about the money. It's all about the money. I agree. It's big business. It's evolved into big business. And we are the consumers. The product is the play on the field and all the people involved in that, and we are the customers, and we're buying it.
It's big business.
It's big business.
Robin Tannehill, the mayor of Oxford, was on the air with us the other day, and she told me directly, she said, look, an SEC, and I may have the figures not exact of what she said, but essentially an SEC home game for the city of Oxford generates around, I think she said $50 million.
Yeah, 40 to 50 million.
$40 to $50 million. A playoff game, a home playoff game, which is now, teetering a little bit, depending on who you ask, that could generate $70 million for the city of Oxford.
Yeah. A town of a population of what, 14, 15,000, 18,000, something like that. It's not many.
That swells to 300,000 people. So, yeah, it's big business.
Well, and so here's what the point that I have made. And look, some people may disagree, and that's perfectly fine. Will, do you not think that winning drives that?
Absolutely.
It's all about winning. And if you want to really see the most pointed example of how winning and success in college football can affect the university, the town, and the state, look no further than Tuscaloosa. When Nick Saban was bringing on all them national championships and his teams were in the running for it year after year, that place exploded. And I know when I'm on campus at Ole Miss half a dozen times or so a year for speaking engagements, I'll encounter out-of-state students. And you know the numbers. It's like 55-45 out-of-state. And my question always is, where are you from? Last time it was at the TPUSA event. I was with 3 students. This was the Bryland Holy Hand event before the big Erica Kirk, J.D. Vance event. But I was sitting there and had 3 students next to me. Where are you guys from? Colorado. What brought you to Ole Miss? Football. And they're just students, right? Have you ever been here before? Nope. Just got in the car, drove down here, fell in love with it, said, love the football, going there.
Yeah.
Well, I said, well, football's pretty good in Colorado too, isn't it? He said, yeah, it's not SEC. That's what they said. So, but if we were losing, I just don't think it'd be the same. Winning just brings out a lot of people.
And I think
it just
that's why
does.
you've seen growth.
There's no doubt about
Enrollment
it.
growth.
Look, I've been through the lean years. I've been up there where you look in the stadium like, where is everybody? I've witnessed it. I've been through the thick and thin through the years.
I remember the recruitment office, and I'm not talking about football recruitment. I'm talking about student recruitment office going, oh.
Yeah, exactly.
It ain't good.
Exactly. Now, there's no doubt that Southern schools in general are benefiting from what appears to be kind of a migration of students from the North and the West that are descending upon the South. It's just for a lot of different reasons, but there's no question that college athletics is a key part of that. I just don't see how you can ignore that and deny. And in particular, when you're winning, it just. And you know what else happens? People dig into their wallets when you're winning, not necessarily to donate just to the athletic programs, but to the academic programs. It just, you feel good about it. People just like that. It's way we're built, way we're wired. We got Christopher Green. Of course, he's going to come on and unravel what's going on at the Supreme Court. And then it's Election Day. We got to get to that in the next segment. Thus, we have Secretary of State Michael Watson on middays at 11:05. Stay with us.
Think for a moment about
This segment of Middays with Gerard Gibert is brought to you by Covington County Hospital in Collins, where your health matters.
We're rolling.
Middays with Gerard Gibert.
What? This is so
Awesome. On SuperTalk Mississippi.
We're back with you in the Element Wealth studio. Thanks so much for joining us. Getting December kicked off. We can officially say we're in the Christmas spirit, all ready to go. It was a late Thanksgiving, unusual.
Yeah.
And so they kind of ran together. But certainly that is in full swing across these United States. Had, of course, on Friday, we had Black Friday, Cyber Monday yesterday. Revenues, sales came in, were up, especially online, about a 9.8% uptick over the prior year. Yeah, and then same-store sales, in-store sales up about 1.2%. Overall, a 4% increase. But remember, over that time period, inflation at about 3%. So when you adjust it for inflation, a 1% increase. So not bad, but and also I think the first time that we hit the $11 trillion mark or something crazy like that. So it's a big time deal for what is for many merchants their biggest day of the year, and that being so-called Black Friday. So the numbers are in, and overall they're pretty good. It kind of conflicts with the narrative that people are struggling with affordability. That's become kind of the new watchword in politics because they open up their wallets. 11.8 trillion. I'm so used to dealing with U.S. figures, government figures. 11.8 billion in online purchases is how much was spent, and that is a lot. Certainly up by, like I said, about $1 billion over last year. MasterCard also tracks these figures as well. Said sales on in-store again increased by 1.7%. So on the C Spire text line, before I get to the elections, it is runoff election day. That's why we got Secretary of State Michael Watson joining us at 11:05 today. Get out and vote. You can see, Will, I got my sticker on. I live in one of those districts That would be the one previously held by former Senator, current Mayor John Horn of Jackson. He vacated that district when he ran for mayor. There was a jungle primary, bipartisan or nonpartisan, not bipartisan. That would assume there are only two parties. They're not. Nonpartisan primary held in November. Now, today is the runoff, since no candidate received more than 50% plus one votes. That, of course, triggers a runoff. We have two candidates in Senate District 26 vying for that seat today. I happen to live in that district, and so I have voted. I will say the turnout is light. I suspect that's what the secretary will tell us at 11:05. But there are other races occurring across our state, and of course our audience is statewide. I'm not going to give you all the candidates, but here are the races real quick. Lafayette Election Commissioner, District 2, Lamar County School Board C, LaFleur County Senate District 24, Lincoln County Circuit Clerk. Of course, we already talked about Madison and Hines Senate District 26, Marshall County Supervisors for District 1 and District 3, Noxubee County Election Commissioner, District 5, Sheriff and Coroner. That your home county, right, Will?
Yep.
Panola County, up there where Batesville is, Senate District 24, Pearl River, down in southwest Mississippi, School Board C, and in Rankin County, we got a Justice Court Judge, District 3, and a Supervisor, District 2. So, we're good to go in all those.
So a lot of elections, the turnout, as you said, will probably be light because they typically are for these types of elections. I mean, I saw I was watching TV over the Thanksgiving holiday, and I saw some ads for some candidates, and that obviously raises some awareness. But yeah, this is kind of an odd time to be having elections. It seems like we always have elections. Just a lot of them all the time. But yeah,
right.
So a lot of them across the state, sheriffs, coroners, justice court judges, supervisors, lots of them.
Right. So all those are going on today. And we are waiting the results tonight.
Yeah.
Should be interesting. Now, there's a big old race happening up in Tennessee.
That's the one that's getting all the
That's
attention.
what everybody's watching, and that is one that's outside of Nashville there. Includes, I think, part of Nashville. And there is a Republican candidate, of course, and a Democrat candidate. And folks are watching it and think that it might be a harbinger for the upcoming midterms, right? Is kind of what folks are thinking. I don't know. It's hard to tell, but a whole bunch of people are watching it, that's for sure. The two candidates, I'm going to get their names for you. I can't remember. Bain is one of them. That's the crazy Democrat, Behn, a female that's kind of like described as the AOC for Tennessee, right?
Yep.
The AOC of Tennessee.
The AOC of
Tennessee, right. That's what they're calling her. I'm serious. I'm not kidding. So we are, there's a survey from Emerson College that shows the race is within the margin of error despite that district going for the president by more than 20 points last year. The previous occupant of the seat, Congressman Mark Green, won by 22 points in 24 before he left to pursue another career. Wow. So, I'm just looking that it looks like that it's those who report voting early break for Bain. Wow, that is the Democrat. 56% to 42. Interesting. Now, the poll, however, does show that Mr. Van Epps, he's the Republican, is winning men by larger margin than Ms. Bain wins women, with men breaking for the GOP by 9 points. This is it's Afton Bain, of course, is who we're talking about. This is going to be interesting, again, because all eyes are on it. And the other thing is, because it is considered an indicator, the money's just pouring into this thing, right?
I mean, Trump won it 60-38 last year.
Right.
And then Marsha Blackburn also got 60-38 in the Senate race last year for Tennessee for that particular district. As you said, I think you said Mark Green once again. It's like 60-38. That's what they normally go for.
Right.
The 2 years before that in 2022, 60-38. And so now you've all of a sudden got one that seems like it's 50-50. That would indicate a shift.
Right.
And affordability seems to be the actionable word. That was what the New York mayor ran on. That's what the Virginia governor primarily ran on. And that's what this race will probably turn on, is affordability.
Right. Exactly right. That again, that's the new buzzword. In fact, there's a story about it right now on the Business Channel. They're talking about Afton Bain for Congress, who got an endorsement from Al Gore. Who cares?
Oh, Al Gore, who famously lost his state.
That's
in
exactly
his
right.
Presidential run.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. Well, but the voting's underway, and again, it comes down to who mobilizes their voters, especially in these special elections, right? That's more critical than it is in standard sort of elections when you got a bunch of races on the ticket, because people go out for that. When the president's on the ballot, people go vote.
Yeah,
they just do. In the state special elections, when you got statewide elections going on, as we will in 27 will be the next time we go. Or actually, I take that back, 26, we have a U.S. Senate election. But it's U.S. Senate and members of the House, and I'm not sure the turnout for that'll be at this time next year, November 26th. The turnout for that will be as strong as it will be in Mississippi when we get to 27, when we vote for our governor all the way down, all of the members of our House and Senate. And then in 28, we got the president. That usually really draws out the big crowds. But, man, it's important. Get out there and vote today, guys, in these special elections. We're coming right back with Christopher Green, law professor, assistant director of the Chase Center for Civics, Culture, and Society at Ohio State University.
From the Seabrook Bowl,
adoring fans, it's time for
Middays with Gerard Gibert on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Middays from the Element Wealth Studio. We're pleased to welcome now Professor Christopher Green, Assistant Director, Chase Center for Civics, Culture, and Society, The Ohio State University. Professor, good to see you, sir. Thanks for coming on.
Good to see you.
All right, so give us a rundown of what the Supreme Court is dealing with right now. I know the tariffs are on the table. Is something in the last couple of days that's gotten more attention because Costco has come out and said that, hey, if the Supreme Court rules against the president's authority to impose these tariffs, we're looking for some remuneration from the federal government to pay us back for these costs that we have absorbed as a result. I mean, so that's the one that the president, of course, is paying the most attention to. But there's some other matters as well before the court.
That's right. So the issue for the tariff case, it has this additional wrinkle of, well, what is the remedy? And You always wonder if the court itself is thinking about that remedy question when they decide the underlying merits. And usually they will say, well, we'll kind of deal with the remedy later, and we want to get generally speaking, the scholars are hoping that the court will just address the merits based on the merits itself rather than how difficult it would be to correct a mistake. So there are a bunch of doctrines that basically allow mistakes to, just allow limited remedies for things that maybe were illegal, where it's too difficult to undo. One of them actually involves the city of Brandon, the relationship of habeas corpus and kind of prospective relief. So habeas corpus is this rule. It's a device that allows people to say, well, I am in jail because of unconstitutional stuff that happened to me in the past. And there are a bunch of special higher standards. So you don't just have to show a federal court that you were convicted under an illegal statute. You have to show that it was especially clear according to what the U.S. Supreme Court has done. So that is a higher standard than if you're just somebody who hasn't been arrested yet, isn't incarcerated, just saying, hey, I want to have the opportunity to speak. So this city of Brandon case, Olivia versus Brandon, it's going to be argued tomorrow. It's about the relationship of this 1867 statute says you can sue if you're detained or incarcerated unconstitutionally. And the relationship of that, an 1871 statute says you can sue about any constitutional violations. So what is so is this fellow who was fined a couple times in the past and didn't challenge his convictions in the right way? Is he allowed to sue about going forward, passing out tracts at the Brandon Convention Center?
Right. Yeah, so it's amazing that Mississippi, once again, is getting a lot of attention at the highest court in the land. Of course, arguably the Dobbs case, the most famous that originated in Mississippi that ever made it to that level. But here we go again. So what else is the court dealing with? I know the tariffs are the one, of course, that probably will have a big boom whenever that decision is handed down. I mean, because the tariffs have been imposed and lots of money has flowed as a result.
That's right. So the tariffs case is one way to think about it. It's about the extent of executive power. So does the executive power reach these? Basically, the president clearly has authority to shut down commerce. Does that include authority to impose a fee for commerce, impose a tariff? One big case next week next Monday is it's a long-awaited challenge to. So it involves the unitary executive. So there's one question: what does executive power encompass? Another is, whether the executive power is big or small, who's in charge of it? Does the president have the authority to fire people at the FEC or other quote unquote independent agencies? Are independent agencies unconstitutional? So Article 2 says the executive power is vested in the president. The president has a duty to take care that the laws be faithfully executed. And there's kind of a series of difficult to reconcile decisions saying that sometimes the president's duty to take care of the laws be faithfully executed means that he can remove people without giving any reason other than disagreement on policy. But sometimes they say he's quasi-legislative or quasi-judicial, so he can be shielded from removal. And the court seems to be poised to give the authority to the president to remove more people than before.
Interesting. There's also a case, is there not, that deals with the amount of latitude judges would have, I guess federal judges would have, in deciding asylum cases. What do you know about that,
right.
Professor?
So, immigration cases, if you take a look through the immigration laws, they are unbelievably complicated. Yeah. So there's wheels within wheels within wheels. And a lot of those cases, you look at those and you think that's just a difficult to interpret statute. There's a whole bunch of policy questions about immigration that have nothing to do with these complicated statutes. So you have these very, very complicated statutes that, on top of that, are not enforced completely. But the court isn't gonna tackle any big, huge question of whether the president or the executive branch has to enforce the immigration laws. It's just whether particular bits of discretion are allocated in different places.
Yeah, and you know that you're so right about that, because I found that the general public, I think for the most part, thinks we have citizens and then we have illegals, but there's this squishy middle of various legal immigration statuses, which would include parolees, refugees, and asylees, as I understand it, which the federal government, under our law, can grant to an illegal, thus making them legal. They don't have quite the same rights that a citizen does, but they do at that point have access to lots of benefits that are typically, you would think, would be only reserved for citizens.
Oh yeah, so lots and lots of layers of different classifications in the law. You have a lot of kind of technical legal fictions about people who are, technically haven't been admitted to the country, so they're being treated as if they're being excluded, even though they're in the country. You have kind of people who are not present lawfully, but are given the status lawful presence, which you think is synonymous, but is different. So it is unbelievable how complicated it is. Lots of business for immigration lawyers. But then also, again, always on top of that, we have all these laws that are not actually enforced fully.
Right,
and,
exactly.
You can come in and make a reform bill. There's plenty of room to improve things.
And then, Professor, it appears that even the states sort of apply their own version of state law to many of those situations, right?
That's right. So you've got the federal law about immigration. You have a bunch of questions about the extent to which federal law preempts state law. So the Constitution itself talks about states making decisions about immigration. In Article 1, Section 9, Clause 1, the people that the states now existing think proper to admit as migration. That's immigration. And so the Constitution itself presupposes that states have that power. It is subject to the federal government overruling it, but there's always a question of what exactly the federal government has done, and whether the federal government has impliedly preempted it by its non-enforcement policy. So a lot of these old Obama administration policies have gotten challenged as going beyond what the federal law allows, but then also saying that this has preemptive effect. And it's a longstanding problem for the rule of law when you have statutes that aren't enforced, I think. But it also produces lots of jobs for lawyers.
Yeah, and I know it gets a little bit into the political weeds, but it seems like that the situation is complicated with respect to our convoluted immigration laws. When you got so many immigrants that have flowed across the border, you just end up with more of these nuanced situations, and where we need the courts to make rulings.
Yeah, and you have economic situations where you have huge reliance interests in the agricultural and the construction industries. Everybody's food, everybody's housing is a little more affordable because these folks are coming in and everybody's kind of looking the other way. But if you actually enforced folks, it would enforce the laws that we in theory have. It would make everything more expensive. So yeah. I think because of that, there's a dynamic there where you could really make a deal. You could have a reform bill that would make a lot of sense.
Professor, as always, really appreciate you joining us and providing your professional insights. Always a pleasure. Thank you, sir.
Always good to see you, Gerard.
You got it. We're coming right back in the Element Wealth studio.
Patriotism.
Come on. Middays with Gerard Gibert.
All right, we are back.
On on SuperTalk Mississippi.
We're back with you in the Element Wealth studio. Are you thinking about retirement or do you have a plan? Go to myelementwealth.com or call 601-957-6006 to let Element Wealth help you find your balance between income, growth, and guarantees. The Sports Talk gang is going to be at the Mississippi Sports Hall of Fame in Jackson this afternoon for a presentation of the 2025 C. Spire Connerly Trophy. You'll hear from players, coaches, and some past winners during the event to honor the best college football players in the state. And we're going to be in Cleveland Thursday. That's for the annual 50 Nights of Lights. That's where MidDays will be traveling. So, speaking of Sports Talk, Will, I got to give a shout-out to the Sports Talk team. I was at the house while Julie was resting after her procedure yesterday and tuned into Sports Talk. I thought it was excellent coverage and analysis of this whole ordeal. And I think having the combination of the team there and their various allegiances really spiced it up. It was really good. And agreed with the various assertions. And here's the thing, and the point was made by Borky, that we're not even talking about the Egg Bowl. I mean, right as soon as that...
Gerard, the Egg Bowl felt like it was 3 months ago.
I know. Like, where'd it go? And I was there. I went. I attended in person. And it's like nobody talked about it because all eyes were focused on what the heck's Lane Kiffin going to do, right? And then as soon as that shoe dropped, that first it was, we're having a meeting. Oh, no, we're having it later. And then you saw that he was like trailed to the chancellor's house. He and A.D. Keith Carter, and people are going viral with the photos of the chancellor's house with their vehicles parked in the driveway. It's unbelievable.
Gerard, I don't know about the weather at your house, but the weather at my house on Saturday and Sunday was very dreary. It was cold and it was rainy. Yes. I don't know if that was for the entire state, but at my house that was the case.
Me too.
And so my plan all day Saturday and Sunday was to clean house and do Christmas stuff and just be very productive indoors.
Right.
And like the rest of the state of Mississippi, and I suspect a lot of the Southeast in general, I was instead glued to my phone.
Of course.
All day Saturday for no news until late. And then all day Sunday trying to keep up with what was going on. I got nothing accomplished whatsoever.
Well, you just can't believe that something like this soap opera, this drama, it obviously was all over the national news, as you pointed out. And I was a little shocked when in her last segment last night, Laura Ingraham, has got a guest and they're talking about it. So NBC, as I think you pointed out, had a segment as well. So it's gotten a whole lot of attention, and it's because this has just gotten to be big business. Now, I believe that Lane Kiffin, I think he contended that he had to get a police escort, he and his son, to get from his house to the airport in Oxford, that people were throwing at his vehicle. I think I read it that way, and tried to run him off the road and all that kind of stuff. I believe he included a discussion of that in his speech with the LSU banner behind him, if I'm not mistaken.
His introductory press conference.
Yeah. So,
I mean,
I don't know, man. It's just crazy, all that stuff and where it's going. I did, if I can find it here, I did review his contract. $13 million per year, but a bunch of bonuses and protections,
including he's getting a bonus for Ole Miss being in the college football playoff.
Yes,
that broke yesterday. It's this whole it's just been insane. I remember, Gerard, I was younger, but I had a lot of family in Alabama, and I remember the Mike Price incident. When Mike Price was hired at University of Alabama to be the next head coach, he went down to Florida for a golf tournament, and some stuff happened, and he was no longer the head coach. And I remember it just caused all kinds of chaos, and I remember a family member of mine saying, if you wanted to rob a bank, the day that press conference happened, that would have been the perfect time, because everybody at the time, before cell phones, everybody was glued to their TV to the press conference because you couldn't look away, including police officers. So if you wanted to rob a bank, that would have been the perfect time. You would have gotten away with it. Nobody would have ever noticed.
Yeah.
Sunday was kind of like that. It was like everybody was glued to their phones, keeping up with this soap opera, this drama. You could have gotten away with anything. I think somebody in one of our meetings says crime probably dropped because everybody was so focused on this.
So, to your point about it, even if Ole Miss has some success in the postseason, I'll get to that later on in the program, but this is an interesting one. An Oxford House buyout relief. LSU will cover up to $500,000 to make up the difference if Kiffin sells his Oxford home at a loss, which he initially purchased for $2.89 million. We're stepping aside for Fox News and SuperTalk News. Secretary of State Michael Watson is next. Hour of Middays with Gerard Gibert is brought to you by the Mississippi Business Journal. Visit msbusinessjournal.com. Scott Coopwood, publisher and president.
Get ready to go beyond the headlines and join a meaningful conversation with people from around the state. You're listening to Middays with Gerard Gibert here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It is Middays from the Element Wealth Studio. We thank you so much for joining us. We're trying to connect up with Secretary of State Michael Watson, and we're going to continue to connect up with him. So, okay, he thought it was 11:20, so that's fine. You want him to call in now, Will, or what do you want to do?
Yeah, get him to call in now.
Okay. Okay. So I'm going to tell him that right now. And if we need to spill over into the next segment, we can.
All right. I'm sure he's busy today.
I know he is because he's running elections, but so I just told him. So, yeah, there was a question on the C Spire text line about Mark Green. That's the rep in the Nashville area, and this all eyes focused on this race in Nashville area in Tennessee to replace former Representative Mark Green. So on the C Spire text line, someone said that they believe he grew up in Lawrence County. He told us that his father was in the military, so I wouldn't doubt him being born somewhere else. Yeah, and he too was in the military. He attended the U.S. Military Academy and also was in the Army, was a surgeon in the Army. So served in Tennessee's 7th Congressional District, but there's a big race we're all watching in Tennessee from a national perspective. But right here at home, we got several runoff races occurring, and we've got Secretary of State Michael Watson to give us an update on how that's going. Mr. Secretary, thanks for joining us.
You're very welcome. Always good to be with you. And we put out some information last night and today, and one of the things we hear the most is people just kind of forget that they have an election going on.
Right.
So want to make sure that people are aware, and we put the information up again as many times as we could. And these are some very important races, as you mentioned there. Some people kind of say, well, it's just the school board, or it's just the circuit clerk, or it's just the election commissioner. Those all three are very important jobs in our state. When it comes to, obviously, elections commissioner, a thankless job, but incredibly important when we talk about the integrity of the process. School board, those guys and girls can raise your taxes. So,
yeah, absolutely.
Very important. And again, your supervisors and these Senate races. So some very important elections out there, and Mississippians need to be paying attention.
You know, I just want to reiterate as well, emphasize what you shared there, Mr. Secretary. School boards, Lord knows, we've seen more craziness happen across this country in school board meetings than we do in the U.S. Congress. I mean, these are things that affect a family's most precious, a parent's most precious asset, their children. More impact on them comes out of these school board meetings when they make all these rules and regulations than comes out of our state government or certainly our federal government.
Spot on. And George, let's take that one step further. When we saw what happened in Virginia, not only did that impact the school board, that impacted an entire statewide election.
Yes.
So again, focusing on these races that sometimes seem local, sometimes you may think, not that important. Oh my goodness, yes, it is. Every vote matters, and these are the ones where sometimes we think about, the federal space, and oh gosh, I don't need to go vote, but it's not going to impact. These are the ones that are tied oftentimes, or decided by one or two votes. This is when you can really have an impact, and so I just hope folks are paying attention, knowing, hey, this impacts my children, this impacts my district where I live, my taxes. We've got to get out and vote and make sure that we're getting good people elected to these offices. It's
so true. And, when you see low turnout for those kinds of offices, such as a school board, I get the feeling, Mr. Secretary, that those who were elected feel like, well, I could just sort of act with impunity. Nobody's paying attention to me because nobody came out and voted, and then they don't show up at the meetings. We just do whatever the heck we want to do. And then the parents find out later after the fact, through some accident randomly, my gosh, what are they teaching my kids?
100%. And again, I've told some folks this. I was down in Tylertown a couple weeks ago, and I said one thing that legislators, statewide elected officials, other folks in politics pay attention to is how many folks are coming out to vote in that area.
Yeah.
Is this somewhere where I need to go spend time to make sure that I'm listening to their concerns? Is it going to impact me at the ballot box on Election Day? I hope folks are listening and paying attention to this, because the more you send your community out to go vote, the more that you have a voice in those small elections, the more you're going to have a voice in those bigger elections. Because I'm telling you, unfortunately, too many politicians look at those numbers and say, hey, I don't have to go there. They don't vote very well.
Right.
So they're not going to impact me. I think this is a great time for Mississippians to really have their voices heard, not just in these local elections, but play a bigger role in statewide elections coming up in a couple of years.
Great point. Absolutely great point. So it's why we need to get out and vote today. So we got them across the state, right? We have several in the Delta, and we've also got a critical state Senate race here, runoff in central Mississippi. But it's kind of surprising that we have this variety, right, Mr. Secretary? Like you said, we got school boards, we got supervisors, we got coroner, we got state Senate seats. That's unusual to be having runoffs, is it not, like this? I don't recall this in the past.
It's quite interesting, and you think about, even with the Senate, you've got some that are because of redistricting. You've got some because those legislators decided to do something else, so their seats were open via election to mayor, like John Horn and others. So, yeah, different reasons for these elections and different offices. But again, I think that's the fun part for Mississippians, to know that you've got a voice in so many different areas of your life. Again, you talk about supervisor, roads and bridges, you talk about school board, you talk about coroner, you talk about just the different areas where your voice matters. And especially today, again, you mentioned it, the turnout were probably kind of low, and that's unfortunate, drives me up the wall.
Yeah.
But that also puts more pressure and more value to you who care enough to get out and vote. Your voice is going to be heard and magnified simply
Absolutely.
because of the low turnout.
All right, so give us an update. What are you hearing from across the state?
Quiet, unfortunately, and again, these are elections that are spread out. We're not hearing a ton of phone calls. Thankfully, we've got folks that are prepared to run these elections. And the thankless piece of the job, when you're talking about your commissioners and your poll workers and your circuit clerks, God bless them. They do a tremendous work. And again, having good people at the ballot box, making sure elections are run smoothly and by the law, are so important. So I just hope Mississippians take a chance to have the voice heard, to do their research before they go to the ballot box, and make sure that they're playing a role in their communities.
What can we do, Mr. Secretary, to increase the turnout? Even in New York City, they just had this huge election for a mayor, and they got less than half of the registered voters.
You know, it's a generational deal to me, and one of the things that we're really excited about is our ambassador program. As I've talked about with you a few times, you know, we've got 75 high school seniors. Every single one of them do voter registration drives in their high schools. My hope is that when they see their friends see the cool guy or the cool leader over there, the cool girl, she's doing a voter registration drive. If she does it, then doggone I ought to be doing it too, because gosh, she just made it cool. Mm-hmm. I hope that that's starting to kind of reverberate in their communities. And again, this is a ground up deal. It's going to take much effort from all of us to really encourage folks and make them understand the importance of going to vote. And it's not just, as I just mentioned, it's not just that school board election. It's also, hey, your supervisor, your senator, your representative, your statewide elected official, they're going to see those communities that come out and vote, and they're going to pay attention to you. So it's a big chance for Mississippians to really be seen across the state.
All right, so absolutely. So, of course, in the state of Mississippi, you must present a photo ID in order to receive a ballot or cast a ballot. What qualifies as a photo ID? Remind the folks, Mr. Secretary.
Yeah, so there's 10 forms, if I remember correctly. You can go to our website, sos.ms.gov, or y'allvote.ms, and you can see the information there. It spells out exactly what qualifies. And again, just the touch of the internet there is so easy to get the information. A lot of credit to our team here for making sure that Mississippians can be prepared when they go vote. My Election Day is our tool that we love to talk about. It gives you all of your locally elected officials, all your statewide officials, your federal officials, what your ballot is going to look like when you go in there, the information that you need to go vote, your location of your precinct. Again, just so much information at the touch of the internet there. So we want to make sure the Mississippians are prepared. It's
excellent. I can attest to it. You know, I live in one of those districts where I can't remember where my polling place is because we have two, depending on what right. elections are being contested. And the tool is excellent, and it told me exactly where I needed to go and cast my ballot this morning.
Good stuff. Thank you, sir.
Yes, man. So appreciate it as always, Mr. Secretary, you joining us and giving us an update. We'll be tuned in tonight to see what the returns look like, and I know we'll talk to you soon. Take care, man. Thanks.
You got it. Let's go vote, Mississippi.
We're coming right back in the Element Wealth studio.
And now, the talk that keeps Mississippi talking.
Now, on to the real part.
Dynamite!
On SuperTalk Mississippi.
I bet you never heard of Marshall Dillon.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Middays from the Element Wealth studio. Mo says Mark Green, he is the representative in Tennessee who vacated the seat that is receiving all the attention across the nation, is considered by many to be a harbinger for the midterm elections because it is a district that the president and Representative Green carried by a significant margin, about 20%. I mean, it's deep red Tennessee, but this particular race is too close to call at this point between a far left loon, AOC of Tennessee, running as the Democrat there, taking on the Republican candidate. So, man, I don't know what to think about all this. But Mo says, yep, Mark Green grew up next to us in Monticello. That would be Lawrence County. His parents still live next door. That's interesting. Yeah, Congressman Mark Green won that seat in 2024, a year ago, by 22 points. Afton Bain, can she do the impossible? She's the one, Will, that's got a history of really denigrating the city of Nashville. It's unfit to live, and who would want to live here and all that sort of stuff. And it's just got all sorts of other crazy left-leaning idea. It shows that she has 46% of support in the most recent poll versus Matt Van Epps at 48%. Undecided voters, that would be 6%, make up the rest of the poll result. So it sounds like it's going to come down to these so-called undecided, as it typically does, those that can kind of gravitate in either direction when you have these highly contentious seats. I just don't want to see such a district that was won by the Republican president and a Republican rep by 22 points last year fall into the hands of a Democrat. I mean, the Republicans better wake up, take note if that's the case. A bunch of money's pouring in. Get out the vote. The key, of course, in a special election like this. And we could talk about all her crazy past and consume the remainder of the show, honestly, talking about that. But I think the bottom line is people feel like that their personal financial situation isn't as good as they hoped it would be. Do you think that's a fair assessment, Will? That
absolutely.
I'm getting that feeling from people, and I'd like to see the Republicans maybe acknowledge that a little more than they are. And I think as long as they avoid acknowledgement of that and sort of deliver the message that, hey, everything's wonderful, great, and coming up roses, that probably hurts them in the midterms. Now, I personally believe that the policies that have been implemented, they're a little slower to deliver benefit because you're trying to undo a lot of bad policies. And so I don't think we've seen the total impact of that yet. I believe we're going to see that next year.
I believe that a lot of the Republican messaging has been misfocused. Is that a word?
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll go with it. A lot of it's been on transgender issues, to be honest with you.
Yeah, the cultural issues, because I think that was a winning formula in 24. But I feel like that's kind of lost a lot of its attention.
Yes.
And it's not as prevalent.
Think about it. If you're struggling to buy groceries, there are people that are financing their groceries right now.
Yeah.
That is a thing.
That's absolutely true.
If you're out there, you're going, well, I can't afford, groceries right now, and the person who's asking for my vote is over there talking about transgender issues. Well, yeah, you know what? I agree with that, but at the same time, the more important thing is putting food in my family's stomachs. So I'm going to concentrate on that issue.
Because that affects everybody.
Because that affects everybody, and that's what a lot of Democrats are seizing on right now.
I agree.
And Republicans, I think, are, like you said, it's not a car. You can't just do a U-turn. It is a huge monumental thing to turn around. And yeah, there was a lot of bad stuff that was happening before, and it hasn't gotten turned around. But every day they're seeing all this tariff news, and all that. You see companies like Costco, you're seeing them come out there talking about tariffs and all this kind of stuff. And the average American, in my belief, is looking at it going, they're not doing anything to help me.
Yeah, I think you're right. And so as much as I believe that making the original Trump tax cuts from 2017 permanent, that was critical, essential, absolutely. The reality is we really didn't change that much. We just kept everything the same.
Yeah.
Now, in 17, when that was passed, that was a significant adjustment from the Obama-era tax structure. That was a big thing when the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act passed in 2017. All the One Big Beautiful Bill Act did, for the most part, was just extended that, made much of that permanent, which is good, but nobody feels that because it's
didn't add anything new.
Right, nothing new. Now, the exemption of tips and the premium part of overtime and the increase in the standard deduction for seniors, yeah, that kicked in, but that affects a small amount of people. That's not everybody. Not enough, I think, to swing an election in a swing state. And yeah, that all kicked in, and it's retroactive, and it kicked in the middle of the year. I'm honestly not sure if the payroll system providers adjusted their payroll systems to account for the changes in the taxation of tips and overtime and the increase in the standard deduction for seniors? I suspect they did. They're pretty good at that. I was in that business. That it was not unusual to see all those updates being thrown down anytime there were changes in tax code. Of course, normally that didn't happen in the end of the year, in the middle of the year, I should say. It happened at the end of the year because tax laws generally take effect January 1. This was unique in that it was retroactive. And it was passed in the middle of the year. So it's like half a year, your pay's already been calculated, your taxes based on the old tax law. Now the rest of the half of the year, the new tax law. But because the first half was the old tax law, yeah, it is true. And the administration's promoting this idea. Many people will receive refunds that they would not have otherwise, or an increase in their typical refund just because the first half of the year was taxed. And that's only for the tip and overtime and senior people. It's a small segment of taxpayers. So I don't think they're seeing the benefits of that. This is something else that really bothers me. Rasmussen, which honestly I consider to be one of the most reliable polling sources, man, they've been spot on in prior presidential elections. I go back to 2008 when I sort of happened across them, Scott Rasmussen, you know him. He you don't see him as much in the public eye as we did, but his polling is just spot on. He's the only one in 2016, for example, that right up before the election had Trump leading, and ultimately did. All the other polls had Hillary Clinton leading. But here's where I'm going. A majority of voters under 40, according to a recent Rasmussen Reports poll, want a Democratic socialist to win the White House in 2028. 51% of voters between 18 and 39 would like to see a Democratic socialist candidate win the 2028 presidential election. 36% don't. That's a 15% delta. And 17% say, I'm not sure. Unbelievable. So, and I just wonder if that's because they feel like that their needs are being ignored. You know, you hear all the stories about I can't buy a house, the interest rates are high, the price of housing is prohibitive, and so they're not able to seize their little piece of the American dream. That's typically what you think about. We reported not so long ago that first-time home buyers average age 40, and all home buyers average age 59, which is just shocking to me. So I do think that a lot of that is going to play out in this election in Tennessee today. And, man, I hope that even if it's close, honestly, Republicans should take note.
I've never seen a district that is as consistent as this one over the past 10 years. It's 60-38.
Yeah, all the time.
Republicans get 60-38 in the past couple of election cycles, 60-38.
Yep.
So if it drops any, you know that there's an issue. And I think a lot of this affordability stuff, again, I just think the Republicans have not gotten the messaging out there as well as they should have.
Yeah, and there's another poll, if I can get to it, that says more Americans say that the president has helped raise prices rather than lower them.
Yeah.
That's in a Yahoo YouGov poll conducted in late November, 49%. So I guess my recommendation would be to the president, not that he listens to me, but to the president and to others in leadership on the Republican side is hear what folks are saying and address it. I do think better days are ahead, and make that point. We're coming right back in the Element Wealth studio.
I should have been a cowboy.
From the Seabrook, Middays with Gerard Gibert.
It is on
SuperTalk Mississippi.
Quick check of your money. The Dow is up 263 today. The NASDAQ 173. So Investors are pouring some money into the markets. The price of oil still staying steady at just below $60 a barrel. You're starting to see that play out at the pump, where you've got several states reporting that the average price for regular, the lowest grade, has a 2 handle in front of it as opposed to a 3. And in fact, the average price of regular across the country, when I checked it yesterday, is sitting at $3 a gallon. So that is down. I think when the president took office, it was in the $3.30, $3.40 range. Numerous factors are contributing to the decline in the price per barrel, and then that being, again, reflected at the pump. Mostly it's because Saudi Arabia has just stepped up their production significantly. We use less fuel this time of year, gasoline particularly. We just don't travel quite as much as we do during the busy travel summer months. And then it is true that there has been an increase in production in this country, but it's not as much as you think. It was about 13.4 million barrels a day. We're at about 13.7. A year ago, 13.4. Before Biden left office, 13.7 right now. We consume about 19 million barrels a day. I think, Will, a lot of people remember the good times, shall we say, of the first Trump administration, where inflation was benign and wages were rising and people had more spending power. They remember all of that. Now, a lot of that, certainly the price of gas and the 2% interest rates and all that, were a direct result of COVID. The price we paid for that was injecting about $6 trillion into the economy in 2020.
Yeah.
With all the relief bills and the Fed's injecting liquidity into the financial markets, which increases our debt. That's what happens. So it's just kind of hard to compare current day to that. But here's what we do know. We don't want deflation. I know a lot of people want, let's go back to the prices of 2019. If that should happen, that means we are experiencing a major economic downturn. Can't sell anything, got to lower the prices. That ain't good. We don't want that. So deflation is not coming. Now, the exception are products that are traded on a consistent basis on global markets. Commodities. Oil is one of those. Many food products and agricultural products. The price can vacillate fairly significantly, but for the most part, the other staples of life, housing would be one of those, transportation another, they don't go down. You just don't see that. And if you do, like, for example, let's take housing. If all of a sudden the price of housing, and it has moderated some, I give you that, but I don't think anybody would say, yeah, the price of housing has come down to 2019 levels. I don't think anybody could show an example of that. And if that were to happen, that means that's because they can't sell the houses. That's what that would indicate. So it's a bit of a ruse to think that we're going back to 2019 prices. And we don't want that, again, because that, and pre-21, you could actually say, pre-21, before the inflation really kicked in as a result of all the COVID spending. So I think what we have to hope for is that inflation stays in that 2 to 3% range, but wages continue to increase due to business investment, productivity, business expansion. Now, something else to keep in mind is that artificial intelligence and everything associated with that, all the data center construction, all the infrastructure, all the other ancillary products and services that are fueling this revolution in our country, that accounts for virtually all the economic growth.
Yeah.
No other industries are experiencing any significant measurable economic growth. It's all coming from the capital investment made in this data center build out and AI explosion. It's not consumer spending that's driving it. It's business capital investment, much of which is being financed by these crazy reciprocal debt deals you've seen that have got some investors worried. Well, I'm going to loan you some money to buy what I sell, sort of deal. So I don't know, but that's something to keep in mind, that's what's driving economic growth. If you took that out of the equation, our GDP is basically zero.
Yeah.
It's flat. So
because housing is expensive right now, the prices are through the roof, the interest rates are high.
Yep.
So that's, that used to be a big driver.
Average price of a car is $50,000.
You buy a house for $100,000 and a couple of years later you sell it for $150,000. Well, right now it's kind of hard to sell a home because of the prices. You mentioned cars. Car prices have just gone through the roof. Used car prices have gone through the roof.
Because new car prices have. So there's more demand for used cars, and thus the price goes up. It's the way that works. On the C Spire text line, back to this Kiffin deal that's really just kind of consumed our state. Tim and McGee says if you would lie about having a dog, wouldn't you lie about pretty much anything? I mean, he's certainly become the villain in Oxford. I don't think there's any question. And I guess I've also seen many of my Mississippi State friends have jumped on the bandwagon as well and are showing a little bit of sympathy for the Ole Miss community. More importantly, they're hoping that the Rebels have a good run in the postseason. And by the way, you said earlier that Kiffin was able to include in his contract. Well, his agent, Jimmy Sexton, was able to negotiate provisions in his contract where he gets compensated for Ole Miss's success in the postseason. $150,000 if they make it to round one, which figures to be imminent at this point. $250,000 if they go to a quarterfinal, $500,000 for a semifinal, $750,000 for a championship game, $1 million if Ole Miss wins the national title. That's what the LSU coach will receive.
I'm going to tell you something about this whole Lane LSU thing. A lot of it is political. I believe that Jeff Landry, the governor of the state of Louisiana, who was out there, stepped out there and was the face of LSU football there for a little bit, I think he is associating himself with Lane because it's a popular thing to do right now.
I agree.
Think it's popular with voters in the state of Louisiana.
I agree. I totally agree. And the other thing that Louisiana has going for it that you can't overlook, it's essentially the only big university in the state is LSU. And I'm not trying to downplay the other schools in the state, don't get me wrong.
But they are second fiddle.
Big time. And on any given year, LSU is going to have the best sports. They obviously got the most enrollment, the best facilities, the most money relative to the other big schools in the state. Not that case in Mississippi. We're more evenly divided. And I'm not saying that's good or bad. I'm just pointing out that they have an advantage in recruiting, in-state recruiting, for example.
I think his popularity took a ding when he came out and was making a lot of statements and stuff. I think a lot of people, a lot of potential, in his mind maybe, a lot of potential voters were like, hey, we don't we don't like that.
Right.
And he probably saw, I'm not saying this is the only reason, it's not, but there's a reason why he was there yesterday during that press conference.
Oh, no doubt about it. I got to share this. Back in the old fraternity days when we could paddle, and you'd have to go around and get your paddle signed by the actives as a pledge, they had the option, if you will, to paddle you, and you'd have. It was in fun more than anything else. Nobody got out of hand. You'd have to bend over and grab your ankles, and they paddle you. And with every lick, you'd have to say, "Thank you, sir. May I please have another?" So I did a meme that I don't think a lot of people understood. I used ChatGPT to do it, where I've got Lane Kiffin on his knees, like with his hands together, praying, and he's looking up to Jeff Landry in his suit. Kiffin's in his LSU get up, with his visor, and I got Landry labeled, and underneath it says, "Please, sir, may I have another?" It just feels like that you got to check with the governor right before you scratch your nose when you're coaching the program. He's also getting, as part of his contract, 65 hours of private jet time per year, temporary housing for 90 days, courtesy vehicle, private suite plus priority tickets for all the LSU games, club memberships, family and guest travel, private or first-class air travel for recruiting. There you go. It's quite the deal, quite the perk list. We're coming right back in the Element Well studio.
Keep on timing that bread. Ain't nothing gonna stop anymore. I'm gonna keep on trying. I'm getting high. I'm gonna make it tired, oh Lord. Gonna get by with my friend.
Polyupa, Mississippi. You know what that means. Middays with Gerard Gibert.
We'll do it live
on SuperTalk Mississippi.
The great Joe Walsh there on the C Spire text line. I live in Tennessee, but not in the 7th District. That's where this high-profile election is being contested today. This is the problem with migration of people from blue states. They move for economic reasons but stay left in the head. I see a lot of them here in my county. In the last election, they were sporting Harris Wall signs in the yard. Yeah, I hear you, but not in a year. It didn't flip at 20%. I could appreciate that if that occurred over a protracted period of time. And in fact, look, there's been a migration from New York down to Florida. There's been a pipeline, right, Will, that's been going on for decades. And Florida was much more purple in 2000 than it was last year. And they've had a whole lot more people come in who were voting more Republican, honestly, and it's the people that are getting out of those states. You can't assume that everybody in those states. I've shared this interesting little statistical fact. There are more registered Republicans in California than there are people in Mississippi.
I believe it. But
there are 3.5 million.
3.5 million.
But there are 40 million in the state. You see what I mean? So they're like 15 million, Democrats.
It's all relative.
Yeah. So, I mean, I know that's always cited as a risk. I don't feel like that's what's going on here because it's a year later. Not that many people moved in to that district from these blue states that are carrying the blue state politics with them. I don't believe that's it. I think it's just this popularity of, somebody said it earlier on the C Spire text line, it's the economy, stupid. Yeah, landfill management. And that's golden, really, in politics. James Carville, the Raging Cajun, I think he's the one that coined that phrase back in the Clinton era, and I think that's largely right. And I think people are just saying, well, okay, well, this isn't working, so let's make a change, and maybe that'll work. But I would ask them to be patient, that this problem didn't occur overnight. Nobody thought when Biden, except us on this program, when he passed that American Rescue Plan, I said, it's going to be inflation here. You can't pour $1.8 and something trillion onto a recovering economy and not expect that to drive inflation.
But, of course, the average voter thinks that it's a light switch.
I know, and it's not. It's absolutely not. So be patient. I think wages are going to continue to rise, and inflation is going to stay in check. And I think that's going to give you more buying power, even though the price of stuff keeps going up. But right now, I know it's painful, and people are impatient. I get it, and they want change. And it's not happening at the rate that they felt like it would, I guess. So the Islander Lodge says, and when they do something they said they would, they barely do it, not to make people mad on the other side instead of going all in like we voters want. Yeah, that does seem to be the case. Facebook is being lit up by homeowners and business owners in Marion County. That's Donald in Kokomo. He says he's got his real estate tax bill yesterday on his home in 5 acres. Home in 5 acres went up 24%. Wow. with no improvement. In Marion County is crazy on taxes. So that would indicate, Donald, that this automatic reassessment went into effect. You said that your property value doesn't show that it would increase on your tax bill, so that would mean the millage, the tax rate, went up, which can only be done by the supervisors in the school board in the city, because those are the three components of your ad valorem taxes. Huh. How did that... I'm curious. If not disputing you whatsoever, just curious if somebody from Marion County and Marion County government is familiar with the situation, let us know. Did you increase the millage, or is there just some sort of oversight here, something we're missing? Also on the C Spire text line, I appreciate my Walmart gas at $2.34 with a 10-cent discount per gallon. That's in Flowood. Appreciate you reporting that. Patrick in Louisville says, is there a way to force something on a federal ballot like you do in state and county elections when you need to get so many signatures to have it put on the ballot, such as if you wanted to force term limits? Absolutely. It's called the Convention of States, Patrick, and that is the mechanism that our founders created in our Constitution to amend our Constitution and to bring issues up that you feel like aren't being addressed by the Congress. I'm trying to remember the thresholds there. Will, I think you got to have 3/4 of the states to ratify and 2/3 of the Congress, if I'm not mistaken, are the requirements to make such a change. To essentially, you could implement term limits. In fact, Patrick, I'll tell you this: the states have to join the convention, and that's done. It's done different in every state, but in general, that means their legislatures have to vote to join the convention. I wrote an article, it's about 5 years ago, that you could check out. It's still out there online, encouraging the state of Mississippi to join the convention on the two issues the convention is out there for, term limits and a balanced budget. Our state adopted the balanced budget component. It did not the term limits, just so you'll know. Fox News, SuperTalk News coming your way. It's top of the hour, and the afternoon portion of Middays remains. And stay with us.
And now, another hour of the talk that keeps Mississippi talking. Middays with Gerard Gibert.
Begin your transition now.
Now on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It's hour 3, the afternoon portion of Middays, live from the Element Wealth Studio. Once again, don't forget Sports Talk. They're going to be at the Mississippi Sports Hall of Fame in Jackson this afternoon for the 2025 C Spire Connerly Trophy. And then on Thursday, Middays is going to be in Cleveland, Mississippi, up there in the heart of the Delta for the annual 50 Nights of Lights. Checking the weather because, I'm always outside there on the balcony. And a couple of years ago, it was like brutal cold, and there was a heater that they'd brought, the crew, but they tucked it over in a corner somewhere. And when I finished the show, Rebecca came on after me, I think, and I went to the restroom and walked back and said, "Wait, she's got a heater." They didn't tell me. That's a true story. So it looks like it's going to be sunny, which always helps. You're on the balcony there. Beautiful background with the big tree there, downtown Cleveland, with the Cotton House Hotel across the street there. So looking forward to that. By the way, Congressman Garrett Graves, a former congressman in the great state of Louisiana, just looking at a post he shared where it's he and Coach Lane Kiffin with the LSU jet in the background. They're in the hangar there at the Baton Rouge Airport. And it says, "Welcome to LSU, Coach Kiffin. Contrary to Oxford, we're flippin' glad to have you." Oh,
I'm telling
my
you, it's all everything is all political, Gerard.
Oh, my gosh. Oh, good grief.
He can show that to his constituents when he comes up for re-election and say, see?
Oh,
see?
man.
See?
That is just terrible. On the C Spire text line, and appreciate this question. I'm still getting taxed on my overtime. Nothing has changed. Someone told me I would get it back come tax time. Is that true? So, yeah, great question. Let me explain. And this is probably why the administration is predicting unexpected refunds and increase in refunds, and why, honestly, the more I think about it, there's no need to change the payroll systems to accommodate these the tips and overtime provision. Here's why. They're not exemptions. They're deductions. So if they were exemptions, that means that comes off your income before tax is calculated, right? They're deductions, and here's why, Will, because you got to meet certain criteria for it to apply. It's not automatic. And mainly you have to have an income that's less than $150,000 as an individual and $300,000 for joint. So think about it. If you start at the beginning of the year, in the very first week, let's just assume you're you're on a weekly payroll cycle, you get paid weekly, and you work overtime. Well, the system would have to extrapolate to estimate what you're probably going to make for the whole year to determine whether or not your overtime pay should not be taxed, right? So that's why it's a deduction, and it's not an exemption, and there are limits on it. So you don't know whether or not that deduction even is eligible for you, or that you're eligible for it, until you get to your tax return. You got the full year of pay. The other thing to keep in mind is that only the premium portion of your overtime is deductible. So if you make time and a half overtime, for example, let's say you make $10 an hour and your overtime pays $15, only the $5 an hour is deductible. The first 10, which is your standard pay, is not. Just to clarify. And by the way, these provisions expire at the end of 28. They are not permanent. So it's absolutely true that a lot of people could be poised to see a refund as a result of these provisions for the back half of the year, because that's when the law was signed, in the middle of the year. It applies for the entire year. So you certainly could be looking at an increase of your refund or additional refund as a result of your tips and overtime deductions, just to clarify that. Good question, though. Speaking of taxes, just wanted to throw this in. The folks over there in Sweden, they just voted down a big old fat wealth tax. I don't know that a lot of folks saw that coming, but they certainly did. They, again, went to the polls to vote on this. That's something we don't do, as per the question we had a minute ago in our country. We don't have a ballot measure process for federal law. Swiss voters rejected this new inheritance tax. But the debate really riled up the ultra-rich that said, we're leaving if you pass this thing. Curiously enough, Switzerland, I may have said Sweden a minute ago. If I did, I apologize. Switzerland is what we're talking about. Has 300 billionaires. That's more per capita than any other country. There are about 1,000 in this country. 2,000, maybe a little over 2,000 worldwide billionaires. So this would have been a tax on the assets that amounted to more than $100 million. You would have had to pay a significant tax, I think 50% if I'm not mistaken, on all of your holdings passed down over $100 million. The total wealth owned by these 300 billionaires is just over $1 trillion. Interesting. So that was defeated in a country that you think about leaning left.
And guess where the money would have went?
some sort of climate crap, right?
Yeah.
That's what they wanted it for. Unbelievable. How sick can you be, man? So that did not pass. So, hey, take note here, because here's what I think. I think the Democrats are going to lean hard into this income and wealth inequality line in the midterms, and I think you're going to see them really put forth an effort as part of their platform to tax those dirty, greedy, rich people. I really do think they're going to do that. And I'm disturbed at the fact that might get a lot of traction even among Republicans and people who lean right. We just seem to be witnessing more of a populist viewpoint on that. Yeah, make them pay more. I mean, to do what? Send it to the most irresponsible managers of money on the planet, that being the United States government? For what? And it'd be different if, we got to go get more revenue from the people to close this deficit gap. No, they're not going to do that. That's never entered into the equation. If it did, we wouldn't have $1.8 trillion annual deficits. Well, we can't spend that money. We don't have enough. That never even comes up in the discussion. Never. That's why we got $38 trillion of debt. But I thought that was interesting that the Swiss said no to a big old fat inheritance tax. Again, we'll see how that plays out in the midterms, but it sure does feel like that it's getting some traction. Also, more Americans are what's called polyworking. That just means they're working multiple jobs. That's kind of a term that was coined during the COVID lockdowns when you had folks working multiple jobs simultaneously.
Yeah.
We used to call it moonlighting. Now it's called polyworking.
I've heard it called overemployment.
Okay.
Where you have, well, think about it, a lot of remote jobs.
Yeah.
This is becoming a serious issue in the tech industry, especially because people work remote jobs. Well, guess what? You don't have a boss.
Yeah.
You're not in an office all day. So there's people that will take two, if they can get it, they will take two remote jobs, get paid two salaries.
The employers don't know.
And the employer never knows.
Yeah.
And because everything is remote, it's done by email, it's done by Zoom calls. There's people that can, especially if you don't have to communicate with a human a whole lot, people can pull it off. And there's thought that is sucking up some of these tech jobs because you have people that are highly motivated. They're very efficient workers, and they can take two jobs, where somebody else over here who doesn't have that ability is unemployed.
Absolutely. And to that point, many of these big tech companies are now figuring that out.
Yeah.
And Meta, their Instagram division, they ordered their employees back to the office 5 days a week. Now, we've seen a trend where a lot have said, hey, guys, come on back 3 days a week. Now they're putting the foot down saying, nope, you're coming back 5 days a week. I think Apple just did the same thing, Alphabet as well. And I saw a report this morning on a lot of the vacated office buildings in New York being converted now to residences. But it's because a lot of the big financial institutions are ordering their people back 5 days a week, and they're reporting that the restaurants and the cleaners and the shops are flourishing as a result of all the people being back in town working. I see this is a good thing. You cannot be developed as a young worker unless you're around other people. I just don't believe it. Coming right back.
Patriotism is...
Check it out. Let's do this. The talk that keeps Mississippi talking. Middays with Gerard Gibert.
Let's get on with it.
On SuperTalk Mississippi.
Are my parents okay with this? Absolutely not. They texted me this morning and they asked for me to tell you all that they do not support me and that they have chosen their convictions and their beliefs over supporting their child. Everyone gets nervous when there's a special announcement from the pastor. I'm not leaving. Hold on to that. I'm going to hold you to it. So rarely do I did not get into ministry to talk about myself or my personal life, but sometimes there are things that happen in a pastor's personal life that is going to find its way out into ministry. And so I am inviting you to join me in a season of creative transformation for myself, and I think for all of us. So I get to announce with joy that I'm transitioning. I'm affirming and saying to all of you that I am transgender. And so the best way to put this is that I'm not becoming a woman, I'm giving up pretending to be a man.
Oh, Lord. So here we
change. Thank God you have never chosen me as your pastor based off of my appearance.
Oh, my God.
Amen. I was waiting for that. None of you ever judged me, or that was not part of the intake process of me being your pastor, was because of how my face looked, or my body, or how long my hair is, or my clothes. Because at the end of the day, we know that clothes are just fibers. They do not carry an anatomy with them. So to say that something is girls' clothes or boys' clothes, well, they don't come with a reproductive system. Amen? So what will change? My voice. It might go a tad higher. Pronouns, she, her. But I'm not going to be pronoun police. Okay? Because I don't think that anybody will misgender or mispronoun out of
we
malice.
got it. So
this is a process.
This is a United Methodist Church pastor that is standing at the pulpit there with his vestments on, announcing to the congregation that he is transgender. And I'm going to continue to call it a he. And is transitioning to being a woman. Says, I'm not becoming a woman. I'm giving up pretending to be a man. This is Dr. Phil Phaneuf, the senior minister of the United Methodist Church of North Chile, a small UMC denomination in Rochester, New York. Jeez. I'm not sure what to think, honestly. And, this isn't a slant on the Methodist Church or Methodists. There's crazy stuff happening in all denominations. I'm Catholic. I freely admit that. They're bad priests. Ain't no doubt. I don't agree with everything the Pope espouses and promotes. That doesn't change my adherence to the doctrine, or my faith in the teachings of God and Jesus Christ. I still believe that. Man, I don't know. I just thought that was weird, coming from someone standing at the pulpit. Now, where I draw the line, you remember, Will, a couple of years ago when this was really gripping the country, sweeping the country, and there was some super exclusive, if you could call it, I think it was an Episcopalian church school combination in somewhere in New York. I want to say maybe even Megyn Kelly had her kids enrolled. It's like $60,000 a year, something crazy. And remember, Rhino and I did the show. I remember talking about this, that they had a drag queen day in the church, in the actual sanctuary, that the kids had to attend. And the school faculty and administration are promoting and embracing this. That's where I draw the line. Now, this adult wants to change, think they're changing their gender, pretend his statement is wrong. You're now pretending to be a woman is what you're doing. It's up to the congregation as to how they want to handle that. It's when they foist it on children is just no place for that in our society. No place. Shouldn't even be discussed. And you've seen, talking about with Secretary of State Michael Watson, why it's important to make sure you vote on school board elections. Because I'm telling you, they sneak that crap in there and you don't even know about it. I don't know if that's happening in Mississippi. Don't chance it. Show up, find out, be inquisitive, be curious. Find out what sort of materials your kids have, because they don't even know. They are taught to respect adults. And when teachers provide these materials and content to them, they don't know to question it. They shouldn't have to worry about it. That's when adults become irresponsible and abuse their positions. In this case, you could say of power over kids, because you're the teacher. That's the way it should be. Respect that. But you abuse it when you foist this inappropriate content on these unsuspecting children. And did we learn about that during COVID when they were all at home doing their virtual learning?
I'm telling you, man, that whole thing when they had to do those Zoom calls for their classroom basically for a long time, I think that woke a lot of parents up. They were
no
like,
doubt.
Wait a minute. Huh?
It's why they ended up going to the school board meetings. It's just what Secretary of State Michael Watson was talking about. It's how Glenn Youngkin got elected governor in Virginia.
And at the same time, you had a lot of, because of Donald Trump had been president for a while at that point in his first term, and you had a lot of this social justice stuff started exploding across.
It evolved into
this.
Internet.
And it kind of evolved from this. And you had a lot of parents who were finally, it was a glimpse into the classroom.
No doubt.
That they normally wouldn't see. And they get to view it with their own eyes. And not really here in Mississippi, I don't think, but in a lot of blue states, really.
No, I agree. But I will point out.
Virginia being the biggest case, I think.
Our regular listener, Casey Waters, on the school board down in Ocean Springs, she brought to my attention that in the state of Mississippi, we adhere to and we are members of the American School Counselors Association, which promotes all this garbage.
Really?
And it's in our Department of Education requires some degree of adherence to those policies at the individual school district level. And I'm telling you, I am advocating for, campaigning for, eliminating that with our legislature. I'm talking to the folks in legislative leadership. Yeah, we need to pass a law that essentially bans that and terminates our relationship. I don't think it has a place in Mississippi schools because it's not about truly counseling. It's about, promoting a social justice agenda, as you say.
Yeah.
It's all they care about. They don't really care about counseling kids and teaching counselors how to be good at that, to assist kids in their time of need. No, it's got a stupid agenda, and there's no place for that in our schools, in my view. And so I believe the legislature ought to enact law that terminates that relationship and prohibits the Mississippi Department of Education from establishing such a relationship. I don't know if Casey's listening today, but she's helped me out on that, honestly. She's guided me on that, and I've shared it, Will, with legislative leadership. Guys, do you know this is happening? So, would you have even known that?
No.
Right, that's the point. That's the whole point, and that's exactly what the secretary and I were talking about. You better go to these school board meetings, find out who's on the school board, and understand how that works. And it's not as simple as that. Just don't do this. So we need law to. It's sad, honestly, if you think about that. There could be value in such an association, a nationwide association of school counselors, and I'm quite sure there has been for a long time. But, man, it's like everybody had to say, hold my beer, let me show you how crazy I'm going to be. Whether it's that or the American Medical Association, the Bar Association, they've all believe they're just big social justice activists. They don't serve the purpose of their membership like they're supposed to. There may be some people that disagree with me. That's fine. I've talked to too many doctors and lawyers who all say the same thing.
I think so. I think people get in these echo chambers.
Yeah.
Oh, and this person said this that was really crazy. Let me see how I can top that.
It's virtue signaling garbage. They get some sort of perverse satisfaction out of just jumping the shark, I guess. We're going to step aside for a break. We got half an hour of middays left in the Element Well studio. I have a question here about interest rates I'm going to get to on the other side of the break.
From the Seabrook, Middays with Gerard Gibert.
Welcome to our shop.
On SuperTalk Mississippi.
Okay, now you have a good one.
I think that may be my most favorite Doors song there.
Me too.
Roadhouse Blues. I know our news director, JT Mitchell, is a big Doors fan.
Yeah, that's the song that Alice Cooper told me personally he helped inspire.
Really?
So in that song, if you listen long enough, he says, woke up this morning, got myself a beer.
Yeah.
And the story goes was that one morning, Jim Morrison wakes up on the floor of some house, and next to him on the floor is Alice Cooper. And, they're like in this hungover, drunken stupor, they're just waking up out of. And Jim says, hey, what are you about to do? And Alice says, I'm going to go get me a beer.
Yeah.
And supposedly that line in that song was put in there by Jim Morrison, who wrote the song because of what Alice Cooper said. And so I asked Alice Cooper about this.
Where'd you see Alice Cooper?
I met him at a concert.
Okay.
I met him backstage. In fact, my Twitter profile is me and Alice.
Okay.
And I asked him, I said, is that true? And he said, yes, it is true.
That's awesome.
He says it was before I got sober, which eventually he did, and found God. He's a big Christian guy now.
Yeah.
Big golfer.
Yeah.
And he said, yeah, I told Jim that. He says, I don't know what we were doing the night before, but we woke up in the same house on the same floor, and I told Jim that. He put it in the song, and the rest is history.
Well, first, I think that scene where they all spent the night at some house, was that not portrayed in the movie The Doors? It seems like it was.
It may have been. That's a great movie.
It's a great movie, yeah.
Oliver Stone movie.
Yeah.
Fantastic one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. That whole Doors scene was very brief, and it was. I love the Doors.
Yeah, me too.
And the Roadhouse Blues is one of their blues rock hits, and they have a very eclectic mix.
Yeah.
Of music, and it lasted very briefly.
Yeah.
But man, there was some great songs from there. And Jim just had this incredible story. His dad was an admiral.
Yeah.
A Navy admiral, and he goes off basically and becomes homeless for a little bit, and then becomes this big superstar, and then dies at the age of 27 in Paris, France.
Right. Well, you talked about Alice Cooper being a golfer. Right, so I got some trivia to share. I played golf with him.
Yeah,
back in the '90s. He lives in Phoenix. When he came off the road at Camelback Mountain there, and there's several courses around there, and a friend of mine from another state, we were on a business trip out there, and we were on the number one tee. He comes driving up, and he's like, "Wow," and I don't know if you remember, he used to be a spokesperson for Callaway Golf, right? And he comes up and says, "Hey, mind if I join you? It's Alice Cooper." It's pretty cool. So we played 18. A delightful guy, honestly.
He was the nicest. I mean, you meet a lot. I used to be in rock radio, so I met a lot of these rock stars, and some of them are just not the nicest people in the world. Some of them are.
Yeah.
But he was one of the nicer ones that I met. He was very accommodating. Whatever we wanted to do, he's like, yeah, I'll take pictures with you. I'll sign stuff. He was so nice, and you meet so many of them that are not.
Yeah, I think it's beneath him.
Yeah, I think it's beneath them.
You're bothering them.
And he was just incredible. And it's so great when you meet somebody like that. Yeah, really fun. Really fun.
Well, I get asked the question a lot, and it's not unusual in this line of work, as you know. Hey, what's your most memorable or favorite interview? And, of course, you do so many. How do you pick one?
Yeah.
I mean, and the one I think that comes to memory I always talk about is Carlos Santana, which you arranged for us. Remember when they came and performed
we were supposed
in
to
Brandon?
meet him. You remember?
On Sunday afternoon, we ended up having to do it remote. But what a fantastic conversation that was. I mean, I just in awe thinking about, because, when I was a kid, that was very, very popular music. And an old aspiring young drummer, and I mentioned that. He said, well, you need to come out and watch the show because his wife was the drummer, remember? The current drummer. So, man, and his daughter, of course, was a drummer. So, yeah, really cool. That was a lot of fun. But he's the one that was so respectful and so nice and so gracious to join us and call in, and I thought did a great job. And he's been at it a long time, done a lot of interviews and been in the media spotlight. But there are others who, just aren't nice about it, I guess. Oh, man. On the C Spire text line, gas $2.24 in Batesville. Do your Christmas shopping here. Glad to hear that. So the question was that I teased, when do you think interest rates will come down on loans? Man, that's a hard one. Right now, the prognosticators, there are futures markets where you can go make investments on the outcome of interest rates. 85% is where it stands right now, that we're going to get a quarter-point rate cut at the December meeting here. It's in the not-too-distant future. Most economists expect 2 to 3 next year, and they think that might be it. So you could extrapolate from that maybe a point drop. The problem is we really haven't seen much reduction of the interest rates we consumers pay, home loans, chattel mortgages, which is the sort of loan you have for a vehicle, a major purchase. Haven't seen that because those are all tied to the 10-year Treasury, and those are auctioned off by the U.S. government, by the Department of Treasury. And it's just hanging around that 4 to 4.1%. I did see where the Bank of Japan, the Central Bank of Japan, will announce this morning they expect to cut rates. They're experiencing a downturn in their economy, and, of course, that's considered a way to stimulate the economy. The tightrope the Fed's watching as well, that inflation is still hanging around at about 2.9 to 3%, and we have relatively low unemployment. And so if they drop rates, that may spike inflation, and that could also cause a problem for businesses in that they let staff go. Now, HP, for example, just announced a big layoff of 4,000, even though their sales are up. You saw the big meat plant, and boy, the reaction from the left on that. We talked about that. Tyson's has a big meat processing plant in Nebraska that has 3,200 employees, and they're shutting it down because they say they can't get any cattle, can't get any raw material, if you will, to process. So I'm always amazed that Robert Wright, somebody I talk about, I follow, is that he's all mad because the CEO makes $20 million and they're about to do a stock buyback, and this is just textbook greed. Well, what are they supposed to do? Pay 3,200 people to do nothing? That's what they want. Oh, no, just keep paying them to do nothing. The people don't want to do nothing. It's not because they don't want to work. It's that they don't have anything for them to do. And if we ran all businesses that way, the entire economy would crash. It's the way we run government, though, I guess, and so that's what they're accustomed to. Oh, they're not doing anything? Oh, just keep paying them and let them collect the benefits while they're at it. That's why government needs to be run in some respects, in many respects, as a business. And look, I don't believe Tyson's enjoying shutting down the plant because it's hurting their bottom line. It's helping from the perspective that, yeah, we don't have this expense, we don't have any commensurate revenue, but what they'd rather have is cows to process, to sell. and pay people. That's what they don't get. It's not like, yeah, we're just going to go hurt people. That's what we want to do. No, they want to produce for society, and in their case, that means producing finished meat products. But they can't get any raw material. And the left thinks, well, just keep it open and pay them. Sure. And I haven't checked, but guarantee you they've been losing money in that plant for a while. So they put it off and put it off and put it off. I know businesses do that all the time in deference to the employees, but you get to a point where it's not sustainable. If we ran our government that way, by the way, we wouldn't have $38 trillion in debt. It's just pretty simple. Louis from the 662 says, Gerard, today's young homebuyers don't seem to want to wait for their dream home. I see very few starting with a fixer-upper but jump on a home that they can't afford. I think there is some truth to that, Louis. I'm not sure how many fixer-uppers are out there anymore, and the problem, as you know, is will you get a fixer-upper? It's expensive to get them to a point where you can fix them up so that they're livable. That's
material costs.
Yeah.
Look at your material costs.
Yeah, that's gotten off the charts as
your
well.
Your tools to do the work.
And then there's a demand for people that do that, and not as much supply. I got some stuff I need at my house as well, and I don't mind waiting for the right people for the right job, and I'm glad, honestly, that they got plenty of work. That's good. But that's the reality you have to deal with as well. So often it's less money to, buy a newer house. It doesn't require all the fixing up. So it's a fine line you walk there. Final segment of Middays is up next.
Properly set all controls before recording.
All systems go.
The talk that keeps Mississippi talking. Middays with Gerard Gibert on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. Middays, final segment. Ben from Madison says, in my opinion, state lawmakers didn't want to join the other states on the term limit issues, the Convention of States we were talking about earlier, because they know people will try to implement them on a state basis. Voters placed two separate term limit ballot measures in the 90s, both times rejected by the voters. I remember that. I believe it would pass if it were on the ballot today, statewide. I believe that too, Ben. But we all know the legislature will never impose term limits on themselves. Yeah, and in fact, I can report, I'm not going to disclose the individual, but there's at least one member of the legislature, a Republican, that I think we'd all consider very conservative Republican, that said no, they didn't support term limits because they didn't think it would be fair for a less experienced person to take their seat and represent their constituency. Really?
Yeah.
So you have to be there and serve to be a good legislator? Totally disagree with that.
I've never been a big fan of term limits, personally.
I tend to agree with you, but the public likes it.
The public loves it.
Yeah.
And I can totally understand the reasoning behind it. I just think if somebody walked in right now and said, well, you've been in this job 11 years. And yesterday was my 11th year, by the way.
Oh, congratulations.
Somebody walks in and
That's
says,
awesome.
Somebody says, well, you've been here 11 years. You got to go.
Yeah. I think it's a little different, though, Will, than when you're representing others. I think it's a little different.
And the counter argument would be that there are people that get ingrained in there, and they do things to make sure that they stay there, and you can never get them out. But the argument I would say is a lot of times people say that about other people's
no doubt
representatives.
Totally agree.
They never
just not their own.
Very rarely do they say it about their own.
And that's why they won't vote them out.
That's why
that's
they won't
your
vote 'em out.
reps. That's the problem. You got to vote them out, right?
They see some Democrat from, I don't know, let's say Atlanta.
Yeah.
And they go, well, that guy's been in there 30 years.
I think Grassley, 50.
50 years. Hey, you got to get that guy out.
Exactly. I know that.
And then they go and vote for their supervisor or their state representative who's been in there 20 years.
Yep. I hear you. Paula Meridian says, I love how governments think they can take a piece of your income your entire life, and then after you die, they can take a huge bite out of what you left for your kids, talking about inheritance taxes, estate taxes. Completely agree. And don't forget, Paul, that what Kamala Harris wanted to do is reduce the exemption for estate taxes down to like $3 million or something, which would wipe out a lot of farmers. I mean, that's one of the problems. If the owner of the farmer passes away and then wills that, bequeaths that to their family, and they had to pay taxes on that, well, they'd have to go sell the farm to pay the tax bill. That's just stupid policy. But they don't care. They don't think about that. Just want more money. Give me more money, more money, more money. Unbelievable. On the C Spire text line, DJ in Summit. I'm not into sports too much. Watch some football. It seems like this guy Kiffin cares more about money than integrity and the respect he was getting from Mississippi sports fans. He was already worth millions. Sad. Look, I don't fault a person for trying to better their personal financial situation. I don't care how much it is. Doesn't everybody? When's the last time anybody out there walked into their boss's office and said, hey, cut my pay? I'll work for free next week. Zero. So how many times do they walk in and say, I think I'm entitled to a raise. I think I should get a promotion. All the time, every day. So I don't see that as a problem, but you got to balance it. That's the problem. He didn't balance it, in my view. Kiffin didn't balance it. And I don't think he was chasing more money. I think if you listen to his press conference down there, his opening press conference when he landed in Baton Rouge, I don't think it was about that. I really don't. I think he got, infatuated with the bigness. It's a bigger program. You can't deny it's 100,000 stadium, and it's, more people, and it's, like I said, it's the only one in the state. Now,
their GDP is double what Mississippi is.
That's right. So I'm not saying that that's for everybody, but I think that's what he was pursuing. And my guess is that LSU said, you got to do this now or never. And unfortunately, he decided on the former. But on the other hand, yeah, I agree. There's a human, as there always is in business, there's a human element that you got to consider. And in this case, you're walking on a program that's 11-1 with players that you promised, and you delivered, but you got unfinished business. And I don't know that you could be forgiven for that, honestly. I really don't. I think you should have worked something out with LSU to leave after all that in a more orderly fashion.
As Scott Van Peltz on ESPN said, it's like you're getting a divorce from your spouse and you're going to go marry your neighbor, but you want to stick around for Christmas with the kids.
Which was insanity, the way he went scorched earth on that and tried to poach and threaten the administration at Ole Miss. Completely inappropriate and shows, I think, lack of character and integrity. Out of here today, back with you again tomorrow. Until then, stay safe and God bless everyone.
SuperTalk Mississippi Media Production.